Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of Video Clips when I cover consequences. And I have always terrible stories to share with you, but they're important. We need to highlight what's going on out there, the pain and the suffering and the god-awful things that are happening to people as these criminals and despots continue to do what they're doing. My mother is over 100 years old and was recently tested positive for coronavirus. She was sent to Abington Memorial Hospital in Abington, Pennsylvania from the assisted living center where she had been residing. I'm 71 and her two other children are in Utah and Alabama. Yesterday I got a call from the doctor and was told I should come now because she was not doing well. I knew what that meant and I went immediately. I wore a mask while going through the hospital and then donned a plastic gown before entering her room. Because of the coronavirus, I had not seen my mother since September, and when I saw her, I was shocked. She was a tiny figure with both arms, had a bruised color from the elbows to her hands. She was on oxygen and struggling just to breathe. Her eyes were partly closed, but I decided to talk to her anyway. As I began to talk, she opened her eyes halfway. I then realized that the mask I was wearing covered so much of my face, I doubted she even recognized me. I pulled the mask down and told her, "It's your son, Bob. I'm here with you now." I then held her bony hand. Although I was supposed to be wearing plastic gloves, I felt she needed to feel my actual hand, not a rubbery grip. As I continued talking and looking at her, she opened her eyes more and even gave a little smile, and then I knew she heard me and knew who was standing over her. I proceeded to tell her I loved her and thanked her for the good life she gave me and her other two children. I also told her I didn't want to lose her, but it was all right to let go and to join her departed husband on the other side, along with her parents and many people who had gone before her. I was glad to be able to give her those parting words and offer some words that might have lessened any fear of dying. The nurses then spotted me without my mask on, and things rapidly went downhill as they freaked out about that. They told me I had to put my mask on. I told them I couldn't give her the coronavirus because she already had it. They then told me that I might contract it. I told them I was willing to accept that risk. The rationale turned then to, yes, but if you get infected, you will infect others. The rationale then turned to, I replied that it was only a remote possibility and my mother was dying and needed to see my face. That was a fact, not a remote possibility. I was threatened with forced removal by security if I did not wear my mask. I reluctantly put it back on and they left the room. So I resumed my talk, but then I couldn't resist doing what I believed to be the right thing, and I removed my mask again. Of course, I was quickly spotted, and the controversy continued. I had said what needed to be said to my mother and decided to leave the premises. I told them I had served in the military and knew what it meant to follow rules, which was one of the core ingredients of their stance. But I told them there was always the exception to the rules, and the need of a dying mother to see her son's face was one of those exceptions. I was told I was given an exception just being allowed to be there with her. So it was an exception to the hospital rules to be allowed to see my dying mother. I asked to see that rule, but they couldn't provide me with anything written. Their constant reminder that they were just following the rules provoked me to pointing out to them that they were now using the Nuremberg defense. The male nurse, Mike, told me, "It's people like you who keep spreading this disease." It is now the following day, and I can only assume my mother is still hanging on to life. However, I doubt I'll be able to return, and if I'm allowed, I'm certain the mask controversy will continue. The uselessness of the masks has been apparent to me from the beginning. They cannot filter out something as small as a virus, and then the argument that gets as absurd as we are told things like it's better than nothing, or it might capture a virus on some water vapor in your breath. However, I could not even begin to imagine that the controversy would extend to a dying 100-year-old mother and her visiting son wanting her to see his face one last time. What is the world coming to when people cannot replace rules with compassion? What the world's coming to is seeing what the people in charge of our government are really like. They despise humanity. They despise humans, and they despise you and I. That's what this is all about. I wanted to share a personal story from this week about the impact of virtual school on the kids. 3 days a week, I monitor school for my two grandchildren, one in kindergarten and one in second grade. Their other grandmother does the other 2 days. Since September, I've noticed the continued deterioration of the attitude of the second grader who used to love school. She's barely engaged without constant reminders to sit up straight, pay attention, stop playing video games. Did you do that assignment? And no, you can't have a snack right now. It's exhausting. At 2:30 each day, there's a check-in with the teacher to see if all the daily work has been turned in, meaning photo taken with iPad and uploaded into the app they're using at the school district. Since she's usually screwed around most of the day, she has to slap together 3 to 4 assignments in 30 minutes, and you can probably imagine the quality of her work. It's also telling about the level of challenge. Don't even get me started on Common Core math. I'm convinced that this is truly a measure to dumb down our society, but I digress. In October, I alerted her parents, my daughter and son-in-law, about her bad attitude and some quite disturbing self-portrait drawings and stories coming out in her assignments. Yesterday, she had her first appointment with a psychologist to discuss her recent self-harm activities, pulling out her hair and eyebrows. The 5-year-old's been wiggly and easily distracted, but he's 5, so doing okay until this past week on Tuesday when he started saying he hates school and exhibited some angry, violent outbursts toward his sister. At one point, I told him to take a time out and think about what he did. After a few minutes, I told him he could come back and join us, and he said, "I'm still thinking." Since he was having such a bad day and acting out of character, I wondered if perhaps he'd had a bad dream the night before. When I asked him about that, he said he did have a bad dream and I want to hear about it. Did I want to hear about it? Oh my, it was horrible and violent with monsters and bad guys. Poor little guy. The saving grace this week was the mild weather here in Kansas. After school on Wednesday, we took a walk to the park and got to play with actual, real live kids. And the best part was one of the kids was a boy in his kindergarten class. I'm telling you, they looked at each other like they'd just seen Santa Claus. He was so happy. We all were. His attitude did 180, and we met up at the park again yesterday after school. The weather is getting colder now, but hopefully the parents can arrange play dates on the weekends since they live so close by. It breaks my heart to see these kids so starved for human interaction. I have no doubt that the long-term effects will be deep and lasting. And there you have it, folks, how we're treating older people and how we're treating the youngest people, the most vulnerable in our society, the children and the elderly. And this is how we treat them. And this is what our rulers want. That's what they want. They orchestrated it. They're watching it. They're saying, this is okay with me. In fact, I want it to continue. And so some of you who criticize me because I'm angry, I'm really angry. Notice I don't cry about it anymore. I'm just angry to the core. And my question is for people out there who are buying all this nonsense. Why aren't you angry about this? What if this was your mother? What if these were your grandchildren? Would you think this was okay? I don't think so. Well, on that note, that's enough for today and for the week. As usual, pass this on to anybody who you think might enjoy watching it and learning more. And I'll be back to you next week with more news.